Good morning, afternoon, however you want to call it. According to me, it's afternoon only when we've passed 12 o'clock. So it's probably still morning, but it's pushing afternoon. So, hi, there we go. That's an easier one to take out all the complicatedness of greetings. Hello, I hope you're well. This is grade 7 coding. It is the 21st of July, 2020. We are doing 4 loops with B. Puzzle number 1 to 8. And this is exciting stuff. I love the 4 loops. And the reason for that is that it is actually very similar to the repeat blocks that we have been using, except that it gives you the opportunity to make the adjustments to the loop as you would if you were creating the loop in the line and text-based coding. Okay, now that's a mouthful, and we'll chat on that a bit more in a few seconds. But in the meantime, my name is Mr. Paul de Klerk, and I am the senior phase coding teacher for STEM Digital School. I am the YouTube administrator for Africa Teen Geeks, and I also do EdTech systems training. Right, so I think we are good to go. If you are viewing this on the YouTube channel, welcome. You can head down to the video description below, and in that video description box, you'll find links that leads to our website, Africa Teen Geeks' website, and there you can go and register to join us in our live lessons here. And we are also entering our informal assessment week, right? So for coding, it's only on the 29th, so don't worry about that yet. But excuse me, the Africa Teen Geeks website is also where you will find those, okay? So just pay attention to each class that you're in. The teacher will guide you as to how you go about doing that, and I will give you more info on ours next week, right? And don't stress, it's informal assessments. We're testing out some systems, and we're giving you the opportunity to orientate yourself. Things this year have been a bit crazy then there's school, then there's not school. Some schools have opened and closed again, and you know, it's some students are attending only every second day. So it's a bit of a challenging year. So we're all trying to do what we can to just make the best of the situation. And these informal assessments are designed to help you with that, to make sure that you feel that you are aligned with the content that you have learned thus far. Awesome. So let's get to it, please. The chat box is there for questions and answers, for me to share resources such as the link to the coding platform. Keep it relevant if you need to ask something, okay? And keep the cameras off, not because I don't want to see all your shiny faces. It's just because it blocks the content. Then I cannot teach, right? So let us just check out some things here. I just need to make sure everything on my side is set up the way that I like it. I'm very particular with certain things. Okay, there we go. So here is our quote that we had yesterday as well, right? I knew that if I tried and failed, I wouldn't regret that. But I knew the one thing I might regret is not trying. And this was said by Jeff Bezos. He is the founder and CEO of Amazon. So it just goes to show what that mentality can bring you in your life, right? If you approach tasks like this. Awesome. So here we go. We're looking at math blocks because they are becoming very relevant, especially when it comes to variables. At the moment, we're only looking at 4 loops, but the variables will make a return. So we don't only have to necessarily, or can only necessarily use them on variables, right? You'll see what I mean when we get there. So blocks that allow us to use an equation to calculate a value that has to change, right? So in the example of a variable, we started with variables as a constant. So what that means is assigned value to either an action or to a repeat. And then what we wanted is, as the program was running and the repeat was running, we wanted that value to change. We needed it to increase or decrease. So then that's when we moved to variables that change. And you use this math equation to do that. Okay. So the next one we have are 4 loops. So 4 loops are loops that have a predetermined beginning, end, and increment. So the step interval. I'll show that to you on the for loop itself. It makes a lot more sense when you see it in front of you. Okay, so we're looking at for loops with B. We're starting with this. So here you can see we're actually using the variable here. We're increasing the variable, but we're not using a for loop yet. We're just using a normal repeat, okay? But this is actually a for loop. You just don't get to change all those settings, right? So here you see a predetermined beginning, end, and increment. So this one has a beginning of 0, it has an end of 5, and it has a step or an increment of 1. I'll show that to you in a second. And it'll make much more sense once you see it actually fully typed out. Okay. They just gave it to us like this in the beginning to make our lives a little bit easier. But what's nice is once you can change those variables of where to begin, where to end, and what the increment needs to be, you can do some pretty cool stuff. All right, so let me jump to the coding screen. I mean, that is why we're here. For loops with B, lesson number 22. So for those of you that have noticed, yes, we are running through this program. We're flying through it, to tell you the honest truth. But I have found some sections where we can go about and just, excuse me, again, where we can go about and apply these things that we've learned in different ways. Okay, so don't worry, we will not run out of work, even if you see we run out of the lessons on this platform. Collect the nectar from each flower using the fewest blocks possible. So this is an easy one, right? We know we're going to move forward, we're going to get nectar, and we're going to loop that. No, not there, math, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, okay? We run it and it works, okay? So that's cool. We're happy with that. Let me just do this quick. I saw something here. Aha, now have a look at this. So what I want you to see is the following. If we set this to start from 1 to 5 and count by 1. Okay, I'm going to show you this. This is the one that we currently have in our code, right? So we can also change this one to a 0. Let's do that so that you can see it's exactly the same. So this is the one that we're currently using. This is this repeat 5 block that we have there at the top. There, that entire thing that says 4 parentheses var count equals 0, semicolon count larger than 5, semicolon count plus plus closed parentheses. That's the repeat 5 that we have there. Then we have curly braces that's telling the code, we want you to repeat this, okay? So there's our variable counter that we have created. Just see here. Oh, the link. Oh, did I share the link? I don't know. Yes, I have. Yes, it's like plus plus in JavaScript. It's exactly what it is. Okay, but what I need you to pay attention to is this. That is our for loop. Can you see that that is exactly the same as that? This is assigning the variable count to there. This one is assigning that variable counter to there. Okay, so this one is just assigning the variable in a different way, setting the variable in a different way than this one, calling it something else, and telling us exactly what it does. But you can see all these little variables, zeros, fives, and the incremental count differs. I'm lying, it's not different, it's exactly the same. So the results that we'll have if we do this is going to be exactly the same. Okay, except now it went 5 times because we're starting from 0. That's why I wanted to start this from 1. Now it'll stop, not going to bump its head. Okay, I clicked on the wrong place. So just get back in there quickly. Come on, go back. So now we have the power where with this one, we could only set, we wanted to repeat so many times. Here we can set, we wanted to repeat 1 time to 5 times increasing by 1 each time. Now, obviously, we're using more blocks here, okay? They're telling us to do it in as few blocks as possible. We're using this. I'm just doing this as an example for you. But you see how this becomes very powerful. For now, this one is fine. Just using this is okay. Like that. Okay, you remove that. Come on. There we go. And you see there it's 5. So that's not a problem. We're still using the right amount of blocks. But now you understand how this one works. But you haven't seen it completely yet. Okay, so I'm going to explain it to you for a little bit more as we use it in the next puzzle. But for now, are you happy with this one? This is easy. I hope you're happy with this. Can I continue? Just open the chat again. Okay, now have a look at this. This says, write the code to help the bee collect all of the nectar. You will need lots of blocks for this challenge, but we'll learn an easier way in the next puzzle. Okay. So what we're going to do here is, let me just check. Sofiso, you've raised your hand. Are you good to go? Do you need something? Can you type it in the chat box? Okay, not a problem. A typo happens. I just want to make sure you're still following. Okay, awesome. So write the code to help the bee collect all of the nectar. You'll need lots of blocks, but we'll learn an easy way to do it in the next puzzle. So the only way for us to really do this is we need to assign a variable. Okay, and we're going to set that variable to collect. Okay. And now we're going to assign a value to that variable of 1. All right. So we've done this in variables that change. Okay. So we're going to do this. And we're going to say, for this one, we want you to move forward. And we're going to have a get nectar also in here. Okay. So these two variables, we want to both call them collect because they need to be 1. Where's this one? Over there. Okay, beautiful. Right. So 1 time and 1 time. Okay. Now what we need to do is, this is going to cause a bit of a problem, so we just figure it out. Okay. We want to repeat this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So we'll just make that 5. You see, we're using a lot of blocks at the moment, right? Now this is working, but we're only collecting 1 each time. So what we want to do here is we want this to change. Okay. This value needs to change. So we need to find a way to do that. Let me just quickly think. What was the best way to do this? Okay, this one we're going to remove and just call that 1. Otherwise, we're going to confuse ourselves here. We can take that out to tell you the honest truth. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now what we're going to do is replace this here, and we're going to say, okay, we want the equation to be collect plus 1. Okay, that's better. So now we're using 13, only using variables. Let's check. Okay, so let's just talk about what's happening here and see if there's a different way for us to do this. Okay, so what we've done here is we said, okay, we are going to assign or set a variable to 1. We're going to use that variable and assign it to the get nectar repeat, and we're calling it collect to make it easier for us to understand what it does exactly. But now this is only going to be 1. So what we really want to do is, after this repeat is run once, the one that's set to 5, it's going to increase this amount. Okay? It's going to increase this amount by 1 each time. So the first time it runs, the collect is 1. Now it's still 1. It doesn't change. It becomes 2 after it reaches there, coming back. It's 2 now. It doesn't change back to 1 because it doesn't run that code again. It stays within the repeat. Now it comes here, it becomes 3, and it stays 3. It doesn't go through there again, so it doesn't get set back to 1. That's why you have to set the variable before this repeat. If you set the variable within the repeat, it's going to change it back to 1 each time. So it's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now what happens is each time we add 1, it remains like that. Okay, there is another way to do this. So that's using that. Let's see if we can get that done. Okay. So this is now set that variable. So we're going to go from 1, as we see there, to 5, and we're going to count by 1, and that we're going to use for the get nectar. Now we just have to move forward to be on top of that, and we need to repeat all of this. Now, this is the one thing that I'm not sure how well that's going to handle this, so we'll just check. I actually don't think this is going to do what I think it's going to do. No, it's not. Okay. Okay, so this is obviously not going to work for this. So let's just continue with this code until they give us an example of how we can use that for loop. They give us access to the for loop, but this puzzle wasn't built to use the for loop yet. So I'm sure there's a way to implement it. I'm not sure if we can stay in the block count for that. But anyway, this solution works, right? And it's 13 blocks out of 18, so I'm not too stressed about that. If you wanted to do it in a different way, you're welcome. I just want to see quickly what this is. Okay, today you'll be learning about a new kind of repeat loop. Here is the preview of the block you'll be using. Counter. This is the variable that keeps track of the number that controls the loop. Starting value. This is the value the counter starts on. So this is 4. Stopping value. This is the value the counter ends with when the loop stops. 10. Step value. This is the amount added to each counter each time the loop runs. So that's 2. Fortunately, this new loop will make solving puzzles like this really easy. Okay. Where do I click to continue? There, it was hidden behind the chat box. Okay, so let us read here. Ah, there we go. This was the way to do the previous one. We should have used the counter variable in there. Ah, okay, that was my mistake. So, the use of for loops makes this puzzle a lot easier. So this is the one we just had in the beginning. So even theirs is 9 blocks, right? I didn't use the for loop. I used variables, which made it a lot shorter than just using the previous way. And still with them, they're using the for loop and a variable, and look at that. It's making it even shorter, 5 blocks shorter than what I had it. Okay, so read the code below. What will happen when you click run? The bee will move forward and collect all of the nectar from every flower. The bee will move forward and collect all of the nectar from every flower except one. Okay, so that's something that we just need to look at. The bee will move forward and collect 1 nectar from each flower. I don't know. So in my opinion, it's going to be B. And I'll show you why. It says 1, 2, 4. So we're going to only move 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay. But here you can see this counter is now being increased by 1 each time. So let's check. And we were good to go. Right, so I'm just going to go back to my puzzle that we had earlier here and show you how you would do this. so that it's actually properly done. I'm sharing the link again to do it the way that they've done it. So what they said is, okay, we take this. Now this loop in itself is assigning a variable called counter. It's going from 1 to 5, right? Theirs only went from 1 to 4. We want to move forward. So this is actually going to just make us move forward that many times. Beautiful. So what we now want to do is use a normal repeat with our, this one, yes, get nectar. And we're going to assign the counter to that, because what happens here is, this is just normally saying, set the variable counter to 1, okay? If we look at that, that counter equals 1. And repeat this until the counter is larger than 5. So the 6th time it tries to run, it's going to stop. Okay? And then it is saying, okay, increment by 1. So here we have that other one. So it's saying this next one, that one there. So here we're saying, okay, instead of just going from 1 to 5, we want you to use this variable over there. Okay? And then this one is set to 0. So as soon as count is smaller than counter, then it'll stop, and it's adding with 1 each time. So we can run this, and now you'll see it's going to work. So what this is doing is, it is actually counting between 1 and 5, adding 1 to it each time. If we step this with 2, you see what's going to happen. It's going to collect 1 there, and then it's going to try and collect 3 over here. So it's going to give us an error by saying there is not enough, the flower you are on has no more nectar. Okay, so just steps by 1. This will become more visible in a second. So I just wanted to show you this, because the puzzles, they're good to see, but they're not easy to understand because you only have a static picture in front of you. Okay, so let's see what this one says. So now look at this. The previous one, we went from 1 to 5, we used 9 blocks. Now we have from 1 to 7, we're still only allowed 9 blocks. So how do we go about doing this? Same way. All right, we're going to take this for loop, place it in there, okay? Now remember I said we always want to create the sequence before we start adding loops. You can still apply that. The only reason why I'm starting off by placing the loops on there is because this sequence is very easy. Okay, so to test this sequence beforehand really doesn't make sense at the moment because it's such an easy sequence to do. So we can just start off directly with this. Now we're going to say move forward. So we want to look at what we have on our playing field. We want to move forward once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, right? So this has to go from 1 to 7. So the moment this repeat tries to run an 8th time, it is going to stop the repeat. That's how the repeat knows I've done it 7 times already, okay? So what we want to do at the same time is this variable, we are going to move forward only 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, because it's counting, it's set to 1. The counter is set to 1, right? But we want to increase it by 1 each time up to 7. So we're going to take this loop and we're going to place that variable in there. So this is similar to those math blocks that we had, right? And we're going to say get nectar there. So you can probably rename this if you'd want to, but I'm not going to. Okay, so there you can see it's just as Jesse said. We're doing the same thing, but we're counting to 7, from 1 to 7, because we need to collect 7 flowers and we need to move forward 7 times. Okay, so before I continue, I just need to find out from you in the chat box. Can I continue? Are you all comfortable with this? Just type a yes if I can continue. The big thing about these for loops, they really become apparent how to use them in the later puzzles. They're a bit tricky to explain just by theoretically speaking about them. But once you start using them, you'll practically see how they work. Okay, so I've got at least 3 yeses out of 8. That's probably okay. Oh, I wanted to say continue, not try again. Sorry. Try gathering this nectar by counting down from 5 to 1 by 1. From 5 to 1. So we're going to use the for loop from 5 to 1 by 1. We're going to say move forward, and we're going to do this. And we are going to say this. Now my question to you is, if I run this, will it work? What do you think? Jesse says yes. So I hope you're not testing this and then telling me yes. I hope you're giving me an opinion before you test it. Junior, oh, there we go. How's it, Junior? That helps me to know who I'm talking to. Okay, so let's run this and see. And look at that. It is working. Okay. So now we're going to play with this a little bit. Same idea as what we just had, just a different application. The last number, share this to you. The last number on your for loop is called the increment. Each time the loop is run, the counter variable changes by in these flowers using an increment of 2. So what we're going to do here is, yes, we're going to use that same loop from 1 to 7 this time, okay? But we're going to count by 2 instead of 1, because look at that increase there. It's running 1, 3, 5, 7. So it's 1 to 3 is 2 more. 3 to 5 is 2 more. 5 to 7 is 2 more. Now, the move isn't affected by this because if you count how many times you are actually going to do something, if you do that by 2, it's not going to be a problem. So this is what it's going to look like. Okay. So again, if you do this 1 to 7, it doesn't mean that the move forward is going to happen 7 times. This means if you count in 2s from 1 to 7, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That gives you how many digits, right? And you divide that by 2. So it should give you around about, there's going to be a few comma something something. So the code will round up. So what it actually means is that that will happen 4 times, which is fine because there are 4 flowers, right? So it's similar to having 8 here. It's going to round up to have an equal number to divide this into. Okay. So you're doing it 1 to 7 because you're starting on 1. You need to repeat this 7 times at this stage. But you're going to count up in 2s. Okay, does this make sense to everyone? I have 1 yes there. Anyone else? The next one is a little bit tricky, so I want you to be sure that you've got this, you understand this, especially the one we just did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the for loop, but you need to tell me what values to place in here in the chat box. So type from and the number you want me to put in there, type TO the number you want me to put in there, and here you can just type by the number you want me to put in there. So let's see if you understood this. So we're just going to set up the for loop now. We'll write the sequence that goes into the for loop later. For now, we just want to set up the for loop. Okay, so there's one option there. Okay. So Jesse's saying we want this. Okay, so I'm going to create the sequence and then we'll test this and see, right? In the meantime, if you have another idea, write it in there. So I'm going to break this up into 2 problems first, right? So the first one is going to be the movement. So I just want to set the movement first. So how do I do that? You can choose, you can either turn right, move forward, turn left, or you can just do a move forward, turn right, move forward, turn left. Okay, so that's going to take you that way, right? I'm sure if you walk this way, it's going to do the same thing. That doesn't matter, right? Then what I want to do is I want to obviously get nectar. So the get nectar, we can't just get nectar once because then we're only going to collect once. So we want to place that into a loop. And by now we know that there's a variable that we will set there. So we're just going to place that variable in there. Okay, we can't test it now because the loop isn't there. So there isn't a variable for this to work from. So we're going to add this in there and do this like this. So these comments don't do anything to the code. It's just to help me understand. So we're going to test Jesse's theory here. And let's see. Okay. I see a little bit of a problem here. What do you think is the problem? Okay, so let me just continue here. I'm waiting for a response, but it doesn't seem like anyone wants to share their thinking. So I'm going to show you this has to be a 3. Okay, so that's the only mistake that we have. That has to be a 3. But I want to show you why. I want to show you the logic behind this. Okay, so I'm going to take this away. I'm going to move this up. So another way we can solve this is I'm just going to break this code up. Otherwise, I have to code everything again. Let's put this in normal repeat. Okay, and then we're going to use the get nectar in a normal loop as well. There, actions get nectar. So don't worry about this now. I'm just demonstrating something to you here. And we're going to, we can't set the variable. Okay, I can't explain it to you the way that I want it. But think about it this way, okay? So I'm going to try and show it to you as easy as I can. Right. So this is not necessarily going to work, but let's try. Yes, you see it's creating an issue. We need a way to change this, but we can't because the variable is not giving it to us. But let's imagine now for a second, okay? We're not going to do it this way, but let's say we had the ability here to set our variable at the beginning, and we called our variable collect, right? And we would have assigned to that variable a value of 3. The reason is this get nectars loop has to start on 3 because there are 3 flowers there. If we started on 1, we're only going to collect 1. And if we do it that way, we're adding 3 each time. So we would have had, as an example, the variable here, collect, we would have set that to 3. Now that that is set to 3, out down here, we would have said use the collect. Yes. Jesse, I'm sure that you understand it now, but I need to just explain it a little bit deeper, okay, for everyone to make sure they understand it. We would have had that variable, called it collect. We would have assigned it to a value of 3. We would have given this repeat that variable collect, which would have meant do this 3 times the first time this sequence is run. Then we would have had another one here that would say set collect variable to collect, which was assigned a value of 3 plus 3. So what would have happened is this would have been 3, the loop would have run, it would have stayed 3 because it doesn't pass that top collect again, and then it would have become 6, and then 9, and then 12, and then 15. So that's exactly what is happening here. Okay. Oh no, I took that movement. Sorry about that. Just put that back. Okay. Just test it. Okay, so this is exactly what we're doing. We're saying set the counter variable to a value of 3. And then we said here, okay, this is the counter variable. And then we say we want that counter variable to increase to 15 each time. Or not to 15 each time, to 15. So once this value of this variable is greater than 15, the loop will stop running. And we want to reach the 15 not by counting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We want to reach the value of 15 by counting 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Now, if you do that, you'll see you're going to count 3, that's once, 6 twice, 9 3 times, 12 4 times, 15 5 times. So this is why this is only going to happen 5 times, because this, to get from 3 to 15 counting in threes, you're only going to repeat this entire thing 5 times. But we are using that math equation to say, okay, we start with 3 and then we add 3 each time. But here we can tell it to stop once we reach 15. So now we're doing 2 birds in one stone. Instead of having an equation here to influence the way this one acts and having a loop here to influence the way that this is being executed, now we have one thing that influences the way this is executed and calculates that variable each time without having to use many, many blocks. Okay. So that, I think, is it for today. What I'm going to do is give you your next puzzle for homework. This one you need to pay attention to. And I would love it if you send this to me on an email as homework. And I will respond to it today, I promise. My schedule is a bit, I only have 3 tech calls tonight with teachers who have issues where I have to log on to their computers from mine to get stuff sorted. So I should have time to look at my emails this evening. So I would love it if you send me an email and say, hi, my name is Jesse from grade 7 class. Or hi, my name is Angelina from the grade 7 class, right? And then take a screenshot of this. If you want to make a screenshot, you hit Shift, the Windows key, and S on your computer. And then you can just take a screenshot like this. And then you can paste that into an email, right? You'll see it open something on the right-hand bottom of your screen. Click on that, click copy, and paste it into an email. I'd love to see what you come up with this. Okay. And I'll do my best to try and respond to it tonight. I think I will have enough time and freed up schedule to do that. Okay, awesome. So we've obviously done up to 9. 10 is your homework. So tomorrow we're going to do 10, 11, 12, 13, and then we'll move on to the next lesson. Send the homework to me here. Any questions you might have here, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube by searching for Africa Teen Geeks. Have an awesome day, and I will see you tomorrow again. Bye-bye.